This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Bonehunters? This is Steven, your host with Fantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friend Jake with me, and we are talking about The Bonehunters by Steven Erikson, part two of our discussion, which we released part one about a month ago. And these books are beefy and take me a while to get through. So luckily, Jake was patient, and we have now both finished the book and are here to give some thoughts on the second half.
Yeah. I will say I think the book started off stronger. Well, I don't know, it ended really well. I think the first half of the book was a better half than the second half, even though I really liked the ending of Bone Hunters. I think overall, book six it was, I don't know, I think it was overhyped a little bit for me. I still really liked it, but I don't think it was as good as Memories of Ice or Midnight Tides, in my opinion.
Yeah, funny. I don't know where you got your opinion from, but I had also had just kind of a random friend acquaintance tell me that this was their favorite book of the series. And that single thing made me think that maybe it was going to be a little bit better than it was. Not that it wasn't bad. I would say it's probably about, of the six books we read, it's like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I would rank it probably third. And it's not like a trailing third, but I think this one, and yeah, I don't know where I got that impression from that this was one of the best ones. I think just from general, I don't think it was from one specific source, at least that I can remember. But just general thoughts, I feel like I'd seen rank this as like number one or number two. And I think for me, the issues I had with it was the inconsistency of quality. Not that like the writing quality isn't there throughout, but just in terms of like plot and action. Whereas Memories of Ice, I feel like is potentially like a perfect fantasy book in my opinion. And in Midnight Tides was really well done as well. Like everything in both of those books really like flowed well together, connected. I mean, it's still
Right.
Malazan where there's things happening that are like, what is this? I have no idea, and you won't know until later. But I feel like this one, Bone Hunters had some of the highest highs in Malazan, but it also had some parts that were just like um extended. And maybe it is just that I don't know what I don't know yet,
Mm. Yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
I think looking back on this after reading 10 books, probably looking back, honestly, looking back at any of the books after finishing the series, I'm guessing is going to be a different experience than reading for
Yeah.
the first time. But yes, I totally agree with what you're saying. For me, I'll just try to kind of restate it in my thoughts, but I feel like in those two that you mentioned, Memories of Ice and Midnight Tides, everything led up to a more comprehensive or like inclusive plot of like all the threads are
It's
kind
like,
of going towards
yeah,
one
it's like more
direction.
focused. Yeah.
Yeah, more focused, sure. And here there were some really awesome moments and certainly some things that were really done. But I felt as I was reading, especially in the second half, it was like, okay, new chapter and this new thing is happening. And
Yeah.
I'm not really sure where it came from, but all of a sudden it's like 100% here and is like the most important thing that's ever happened in the series. And we're going to deal with it right now. Like, here it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, I prefer a little bit more of a build, introduce whatever it is, give me some good payoffs. But instead, I did feel like there were several things that were just like, here we go.
Yeah, and like we said, like there's some really cool things that happen and like really exciting things to read. And I if we're still not doing spoilers, there's a part specifically in the second half that like I think is like one of the most memorable parts of the Bone Hunters in general. And it was a huge deal. And I feel like it felt like it had implications for the series as a whole, but it somehow didn't like no explanation. Not no explanation, that's a given with Malazan, but no like no understanding. Like it seemed this is a huge deal, but then it was resolved and then the resolution didn't seem to have a lasting impact, but maybe it will. And that's, yeah, it kind of felt disjointed, like you're saying.
I think we are doing spoilers. I
We're doing
mean,
spoilers right now.
anyone
Okay.
watching the second half of a podcast covering the sixth
Yeah,
book in a like I think we're okay
Okay.
for spoilers if you're listening for some reason and don't want to be
The
spoiled.
Jade,
Yeah.
the Jade meteors coming from the moon or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That like seemed like, I feel like this is really important, and I don't think it landed as important as it feels like it should have been. I had to do some like looking back, and um I feel like, so this is my understanding of it.
Yeah, let's kind
These
of
are
walk through because I'm not sure if
yeah.
I like connected all the dots in this part.
So it's not inexplicably. It's directly connected to uh Heberic and the crippled god. So everyone's on
Right.
the ships. All the different viewpoints basically we've been following are kind of on ships, a part of this. And they mentioned before that they could see like, oh, it looks like there's like parts of the moon breaking off or something like that, or scarring on the moon. And then
Yeah, I will say for the criticisms that we had before, this one is like kind of set up where there are multiple times
yeah,
in the narrative earlier where it's like there's something weird going on up in the sky, but it never really seems like you don't realize how important it is until the sky is falling and the world is ending.
it felt like this should have been the climax of the book. I think that's my issue with it, is that it felt like this is a climax worthy event that wasn't given its due. But so yeah, and then they're coming down, and this is right when Heberic is being brought to the Odotaro Island. Um, their debris comes down, knocks him over, and then when he's in the water, he is brought back to life, and is able to commune with souls or something, voices
It's like
within
the
these
souls in the
meteors.
jade, yeah, the jade meteors, right? Which is
Yeah.
yeah, and he becomes like the shield anvil, which is a term that is connected with the gods of some of the other gods of war.
Yeah, I don't know if it's all gods of war, because we saw what was it?
The gray so
The
yeah,
gray
the
swords
gray
that had
swords were
Ikovian was
in
the shield
Memories of
anvil.
Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Kapustan. And they seem kind of similar to the what do they call the gray like the gray helms or something like that? The ones that
Oh yeah,
join up the the Navy. It's like, hey,
because
we're
the
here ready to help you out.
did the gray swords, they served Fenor, right?
That sounds right.
Who was a god of war,
Right.
and Heberic
And
also served Fenor.
these parish people, that's the name of the group that they met up
Yeah,
with.
they
They
served
talk about
the
serving
wolves.
like Tog and Fanderley, whatever
Yeah,
the wolves. Yeah.
who have claimed the beast hold in Memories of Ice, and they are, I don't know if they're related to war as well.
I'm pretty sure they
Anyways,
are.
because then there's also Treach, who Fenner is now, or
Mhm.
Heberic is now part of Treach. But okay, so yeah, it seems like, so because he touched the jade statue in how, what is it, House of Chains or Dead House Gates? Dead House Gates.
I think he touched it. Like that whole thing kicked off in Deadhouse Gates.
Dead House Gates. So he has a connection to it, and I think that connection is letting him have a connection to these. But also in Dead House Gates, he talks about, I think it was Dead House Gates, this, maybe House of Chains, but this rent he sees in like the moon, and I think he was like prophesying that this was going to happen because he saw things coming out of it, and he related it to the crippled god then. And I remember it, he thought maybe they were the followers of the crippled god.
Mm.
So but I don't know if he meant, I don't know if that meant, and this is me trying to remember, I tried to look back, and I didn't find a ton of information that wasn't blocked behind spoilers, so I was a little reticent to like dive
Right.
deep. but I don't know if it meant followers as in like literally time-wise they are following him because the crippled god was like brought down
Hmm.
from the heavens somehow, or if they were like worshipers of him. But the thing I'm still not sure on is what triggered these things falling, you know? And this was, yeah, so
I
what
don't
triggered
know.
it?
Yeah.
This is a question I think is fine if it's somehow answered later, that it's not known now. Um, and then so it sounds like by becoming their shield anvil and taking on their pain, sounds like maybe they weren't willingly coming if they were in pain. I don't know, but then they just like they kind of exploded into smaller chunks, right? And then it was just like
Well,
more,
and he was telling him to reach towards me. There was kind of these disjointed
yeah,
parts that were happening, right? And then the giant hands came out of the island,
and they like
and
blocked.
that like absorbed all of the falling jade
Yeah,
stuff, and
yeah,
thus was the world saved.
yeah. And like this was, it's like mentioned multiple times. This was a world-ending event. Like
Yeah. Everyone
that's
was
where,
like, well, and well, one thing that you didn't mention was there was some speculation as to, oh, there's this war with the gods that's happening. And I
yeah,
don't remember what character it was, but they were thinking like, oh crap, is this the war with the gods? And they're like, nah, the gods aren't like, it's not really at that point where this type of stuff is happening.
yeah.
So this is something that just like happened on its own. And yeah, obviously some relation to crippled god, but I don't know why.
I think so the relation to crippled god I'm recollecting is he also was cast down from that same
Right,
area.
right.
Um, and
Was
then
it the same area? I think it was a different continent. They
no,
mentioned,
I meant from the moon still.
oh,
Not
okay,
not
sure.
not landing in the same area, but originating from the same place.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And so initially when I read this, I interpreted this as an attack by the crippled god to destroy the world because I don't really know, other than causing pain, I don't really know what his overall goal is. So I feel like wiping out the whole world would suit him. But then also maybe that's a I don't know. But so yeah, that was my assumption. And then I thought, so when I was first reading this, I thought they were like when I found out there's people inside or sentience, souls or whatever, I thought were willingly coming like kamikaze, but then it sounded like they didn't want to even be there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought maybe they're a bunch of like kamikaze crippled god zealots or something that are somehow trapped in Jade. But now I'm thinking, and I might be completely off base, but maybe that moon is like another realm in the same way Warrens are, and like whole separate like laws of physics are going on up there. And this is like a completely alien, like maybe there's a different pantheon of and like conflict going over there, and they just kind of since the crippled god is brought here, there's like a connection and here being Malazan world, there's like a that's like connected it, and so it's causing some sort of um, I don't know interaction between the two that isn't necessarily like understandable.
I think the only thing you
I don't
missed
know.
in that explanation was Perrin's deal with Hood that was
Yeah,
involved there.
which is what brought Heborick back, the
Right,
way I
right.
understood it.
No, same understanding. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's right. Otherwise,
Which
otherwise it seems like Hood did nothing.
yeah, because that happened right after. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the deal he made with Hood was? I think I know,
Yeah. You have
but
an
if
idea? I just
I
have like a vague. I mean, Perrin is the master of the deck. Hood wants some
yeah,
kind of reshuffling of the players in the deck. I don't know. I don't have a great idea.
you're okay. Your idea is way better than mine. I was okay. I was thinking he wanted to take out Kalam somehow. Like he wanted Kalam part of his house or something.
Mm.
And so which is why Kalam, because they talked about Kalam needing to make a decision and like his fate
Hmm.
rested on like what side he chose basically. And I thought it
You mean at
was
the end of the book?
Yeah, at the end of the book. Yeah,
when he's
yeah.
choosing to go back to the Empress or stay with the
Well, I feel
adjuncts.
like even before that, like when Quick Ben is doing his like puppet show and is like astral projecting, I thought they talked then about like, hey, you need to make a decision. You need to figure out what you're gonna like, what decision you're gonna make. Anyways,
Mhm.
but but yeah, at the end of the book, when he decides to not root out the claw, but to stay and protect Tavora, I thought that was like a that was be Hood nudging him so then he would die and then he would be like brought in as like I don't know, like a maybe not a mortal sword, but some sort of like
Mm.
key player for Hood. And I thought that fit because he's an assassin, so like death, and he talks a lot about like death. But I see two flaws in that theory now. One, he doesn't really have a connection to Hood at all. Dun Sparrow and Whiskey Jack do. Um, and he probably doesn't die, right? Because he's brought into uh is he brought into the realm of shadow?
No, he's put into the Azoth house,
The
the dead
Azoth house.
house. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
I,
So
I thought that I'm not gonna get this right, but I thought that Kalam was has been connected to a deck of dragons character.
maybe, I mean,
Before
he's
I
been
thought he was like the, I don't know, the knight of
shadow.
death or shadow or like one of the, I thought he
He
was
worked
connected
with
to death or shadow through the deck of dragons at some point.
the Knight of Shadow in this book at least is determined to be Troll Sengar. When they
Mm,
do their Deck of Dragons readings, they show
right.
someone with the spear as the Knight of Shadow. I assume that was Troll for defending
Do you
the
remember
first
what
throne.
card Kalam gets during that?
I don't remember if he did or what. But he did. He has in Dead House Gates. He
Or
worked
wait, is
with
he the one that has like the
Cotillion.
card that's flipped over and they don't look at it until the end, or was that Quick Ben?
I'm not
Remember
sure.
one of them, Fiddler like
Yeah, one of
dealt
them
out the first
does.
card and it was flipped
Let's
over
see.
and he's like, You're not allowed to look at this." And then I think at the very end, the adjunct looks at it, but like the reader doesn't, I don't think the
Yeah,
reader finds out what it is. I don't
yeah. I
remember
don't
if that was
remember who it
Kalam or
was.
Quick.
I don't think it was Quick Ben because Quick Ben seemed like he was whoever it was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Whereas Quick Ben, I don't think would have been that type of questioning.
Hmm.
Um, uh,
I know it's broken down in the reread of The Fallen that Tor does. I'm gonna see if I can
is
find it.
it?
Although I don't remember what chapter it was, maybe like 20-ish.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, the whole like reading of the deck, that was a fun part. That happens in
Yeah,
almost
so fun.
every book, like a deck of dragons
Or
interaction
holds.
in some way, and it's always fun to try to figure out what the heck is happening.
I know we got one with like the tiles of the hold in Midnight Tides, but it felt like a long time since I don't know. Everything about Bone Hunters is a lot more straightforward, at least compared to other books in terms of like there's a lot more exposition of like what is happening. In the first half, you get a good explanation of ascendance with Perrin, and then I feel like
Hmm.
this deck of dragons was a lot more um transparent than like in Gardens of the Moon when they're just playing it in uh
Yeah. Guardians of the
Jabak,
Moon,
what's
we
it?
had no idea what was happening.
Gurjistan. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember who had the card. Um, but was it
Yeah,
Bottle?
I'm not
Was it
finding it.
Bottle?
But oh, okay, I found the little breakdown here on the
Okay.
reread of the Fallen. Okay, so we were wondering about Kalam. So Kalam gets Obelisk, which I'm not, can't remember what that is. It's an unaligned card, but I don't remember what. And then
Hmm.
he gets King of High House Shadows.
Kalam gets that.
Yeah, Kalam gets King of
Well,
High House Shadows,
so
which would
maybe
be Shadow Throne already, right? I mean, Shadow Throne is really heavily involved in what
is he the
happens with him.
king?
because
Yeah, is
Shadow
that
Throne
how?
sends Quick Ben away when Quick Ben was going to go help him, and
Yeah,
then drags him into the dead house at the end. So
yeah,
maybe that's that connection.
maybe yeah. But yeah, that was my thing. But I like yours better that it's something to do with shuffling up, um, like Perrin being the master of the deck, like a deal he could do with that. Because, like, what what say does Perrin really have to say? Like, okay, yeah, Kalam can die, you know. I like your idea better. What kind of shuffling did you have like a more realized theory than
No,
that?
no, not really. Just that Hood is
Yeah,
somehow gonna, get an advantage by this favor. I don't know.
yeah,
It seemed to
yeah,
be something really big because Perrin was like,
yeah.
Perrin gave a no crap reaction, and Quick Ben, who was spying, that was kind of funny.
Give
He's
it
just
no
like
crap.
lying with the
Yeah.
corpses spying. Yeah.
Quickbin, I feel like, yeah, I feel like he's gotten more manic, and it might be just the audiobook narrator does a manic wizard voice now, for him. Uh, Also in this card reading though, I liked how they talked about Felison Younger and how there's like a new card that's within the House of Chains, but it's
Hmm.
I don't know if it's aspected to salvation or whatever, but basically hinting, like Perrin suspected earlier, that she's gonna break off and be her own thing for better or for worse. Like the crippled god isn't going to be in charge of her and her cult. Um,
I thought that whole explanation of what was going on in Seven Cities with Shaik and the Apocalypse and how like they were there for what 3 books now and
yeah,
had gone through all this stuff, and in the end they're like, did we even win that? Because it
yeah,
seems like we won the war kind of, but at the other hand, this plague broke out, and their Shaik is still out there on what, number
yeah,
3, right? So that was really interesting, and I think one of the better things. And I am interested to see what happens, yeah, with Felson Younger and the remnants here. I mean, it seems like Seven Cities is in the really bad sorts right now, and hard to
yeah,
see how important, like, it seems like everything that we know about Seven Cities, like all the places we've visited and that like eastern area that we've spent the most time in, that part's like all either been destroyed or the plague has killed
wiped
everyone, or
out.
yeah, so it's like what is going to go
Yeah,
on here? Like something significant, obviously, but it's hard to see how.
my theory is, um, well, before I get into that, like you said, I think it's really cool how I think in a lot of books or media, you're like, okay, how many shaykhs are there going to be? Like, this is kind of getting out of hand. But I really like how it's handled in Malazan, where it feels very natural, like the progression from one shaykh to the next, and how
Mhm.
each iteration of it is different, because it's a different person while still kind of serving the same overall goal. And I think the social psychology that's highlighted in this book is really interesting, especially with like the rebellion and how that changes, and like I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who then joins his crew with Perrin, who like hands Fellison Younger the new book of Dryjna, and it's like, or
Oh
the
yeah,
book of Dryjna, and he's like,
I want to
hey,
say
we
it
gotta
starts with like
go.
an M, like Matic or something like that. But yeah,
Probably, yeah.
yeah, the one that decides to join Perrin, and that was a nice
Because
moment where
he's dis
Perrin was really awesome in the second half, and I really like the character now. He was kind of whiny back in the beginning of the series, if I
yeah,
remember right. But yeah,
because
but
he
what were you
kind of
saying?
played the role of in the beginning he's kind of the role of like, I don't know what's happening, and now ever since becoming master of the deck, well, I guess when he became master of the deck, he's like, I don't want to be master of the deck, and now he's just like, all right, I'm master of the deck, and now I'm commanding
Right.
the seventh. Uh but I liked how that guy with the Book of Dryden was like, okay, we need to continue like the whirlwind, the rebellion, and Fellison Younger is like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't need your army. I don't need to kill people. I took that as her saying like yeah, the crippled god, like his machinations were to put her in power to like not lose like to capitalize on the power vacuum there, but I think it's kind of backfired for him. I didn't see her as being under his sway. I saw her as kind of being the opposite of like, I've been raised in so much like trauma that instead of like propagating that and spreading that, I'm just going to do the opposite. Um, so I liked how I'm kind of thinking to your point of like everything's kind of wiped out in seven cities. My prediction now is that she's kind of rebuild that
Mm.
culture under her cult of salvation, and I'm hoping it's like I'm predicting it's the same way as the whirlwind is like rebellion, like that same idea of like you're rebelling for like for betterment of yourself and your society. Like I think that salvation part is still there, but this is going to be a less violent aspect of that. I thought that was really cool. I'm hoping she's independent of the crippled god, just for her sake and Seven Cities' sakes. I did think it
Yeah,
was
I
weird.
hope they get something like some positive resolution out of that. Like the last two Shaikh plot lines have just ended really sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
Seven Cities,
don't
man, like that
they need
place
some.
is rough right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was cool that Perrin got the that whirlwind army, but also I didn't really understand it. It's like we're gonna rebel against the Malazans. Well, if we can't kill Malazans, I guess we'll join them so we can kill other people. Like that's their whole motivation is we're an army, we need someone to kill. Like,
I think he basically said if we don't have some kind of focus, we're just gonna fight and kill each other.
oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. I was just like, dang, what a switch of loyalties
Yeah.
there that didn't really, but that
There
makes
were
more sense
some, I
though.
mean, there were some big switches of loyalties, and you hinted
Yeah.
at the social psychology of like the
Yeah.
the
The
hatred
Wiccan stuff.
towards the Wiccans
Yeah.
and
So
Malgrel and
interesting.
Corporal Dom showing up and now
Yeah.
being like second in command over there in
Yeah.
with the Empress, which is like a whole conversation that I feel like I don't completely understand what was going on there.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I liked how it was like standard psychology with some, or whatever that is, like just the standard like manipulation of like mob mentality to get them to like, I feel like that could happen in today's world to kind of like turn these actual heroes and victims into um villains. But then I liked how when they were in the streets, like I think it was is Mayanis, the Warren of or like the power, the magic of like mental stuff. Like I don't know if illusion is the right word, but it was saying I think it was
Sounds right.
Mayanis,
It's
but
like either that one
some
or Makra, right? Those are both
Makra,
kind of
yeah,
one of
one of
those. Yeah,
those
sure.
where like you could sense the sorcery in the air that was like fueling this in
Hmm.
into the like the fury causing the civilians to like fight against the army. But that was really well done. Um, a weak part in that I like how I like the turn of events, like you said, of Malak Rel and Corbeil Dom being like high up in the Malazan Empire, even though they betrayed the Malazan Empire, or at least they betrayed contingents of it
Hmm.
for their own. Like
Honestly, like I
they're
barely remember Malik Rel from the previous books, but my memory of him was strong enough where as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh, I hate this guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think recap, I think it was him who locked the city that
Right.
Coltane was trying to get to.
Well, didn't he basically prevent any help going out
Yeah,
to the chain
yeah,
of dogs the whole time? And
yeah.
then,
And then didn't
yeah,
let
he
him.
closed the gates when they were coming
Yeah.
in and yeah, yeah.
And then I think he went out at the last second and then joined forces with Corbeil Adam's men to then kill the rest of them.
Mm.
Um so yeah, I think that it's cool, a cool turn of events, and like the like saddening irony there is really well done. What I don't get though, what I don't like from it is like what purpose does Lacine like fill? Like she does nothing. Like first just like recapping these 6 books. In the first book, it's like, okay, she usurped the throne. She's pretty powerful. And then like you see her like another time, I think, before Perrin is sent off to Jinnabakis or whatever, or Darujhistan. And she seems like formidable. And then you think she's like kind of evil for betraying the bridge
The bridge
burners.
burners, right?
And then the second book, Kalam is like going to kill her. You see like the fallout of the culling and everything. And then at the end, you find like she's like, everything I did was on purpose, like it was planned out. And Kalam's convinced, like, okay, no, yeah, you were in the right. Like you are this mastermind. So that's what I was
Hmm.
expecting, like some sort of mastermind empress. But then she's like easily like outmaneuvered by Malak Rel and Corbulo Dom to be basically like beholden to their whims, and her only and she just goes along with it. She's like she lets the Wiccan stuff happen, and then she's fine with the 14th being sacrificed. And
Hmm.
it's either it's either or it's either or I guess and or she she's weak, or weak and just ruthless unnecessarily, where it's like it's either she had no other recourse but to stay alive, and the only way to stay alive was to sacrifice like all these lives, or it's incompetence plus like indifference. Like I don't know. I just lost a lot of respect for her in terms of like moral character and like political fortitude in this book. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, first of all, I'm confused. What exactly, like, what were all of the reasons going into getting to this position where, I mean, Malik Rel and Corporal Adam should have been executed, right? Or they should be locked in
Yeah,
the black pits of the dungeon. Like, how did they get even released and to the point where they are now like top advisors? What happened there? I would have liked to maybe get some sense of that before just like busting in on it. And then and also to hear that Malakrell has like infiltrated all the claw and now has like
yeah,
the black Aja going on there with the claw.
yeah,
There was a
yeah,
lot of stuff unexplained there, and all we really get is this like in the conversation, Lysine is like, well, Seven Cities is really bad, and we don't have any more food, and so we're gonna have to, make this Wiccan sacrifice, and then go back in there and try to like retake everything. So, I mean, some kind of like vague stuff like that, where basically she was saying like, my position is terrible. Malazan Empire right now is really like on a
yeah.
brink, so like I've got to have help from these guys as they like throw the Wiccans under the bus. And I was kind of like, I don't really connect all the dots in this, and I know that's kind of par for the course with some Malazan stuff, but this seemed like a really big deal and it was the climax of the book, and I didn't really ever like understand the reasoning for the main antagonistical force of the climax, so it's kind of strange.
I feel like I understood like the Malik Rel and Corwilla Dom stuff. Like I was able to like get past like, okay, yeah, they were able to like outmaneuver their rightful punishment there, like somehow through manipulation. Um uh but I just didn't understand like Lysine, like her character went from being like antagonistic to playing 4D chess to like useless. And like I don't know, and just like basically the deal she offers Kalam and Tavora is like, for Kalam it's like, hey, if you take basically join me, you will like get your revenge on like the evil claw here and Malik Rel. Like you'll be able to like clean house for her, so that way she can stay in charge. So basically kill everyone that is oppressing her for her,
Mm-hmm.
or you can leave and you don't get your revenge. Like that was basically for him. And then for Tavora, like, from my understanding, was similar. Like you can stay by my side and then help me get rid of the evil things. But in order to do that, you have to be complicit to the Wiccan's death and relinquishing your army, which is basically a death sentence for them. Or you can leave and die with your army. It's like she didn't really even have a like her only choice was like save yourself or not. And I think that just is a kind of highlights the inability of Lysine to rule. It's like if this is like the best you can offer, if this is a situation you found yourself in, like regardless of the morality of the question, like I think it'd be like you're not fit to rule. Like you can't like
It
you
also
find
kind of
yourself in
seemed
this
weird that
situation.
why would she have no other allies close to her,
Yeah,
right? Like, I guess Tatron is gonna be someone that she can trust, but he's like
he's
doing
hidden
something
away.
else, just like off on his
Yeah.
own. And he has this conversation with Shadowthrone at the end that was kind of murky and I didn't really get too much out of, but he's basically like, he feels like he knows what's going on and he feels like it's in his best interest right now to just stay his hand. But yeah, it seems weird that all of Lassine's people that she can like quote unquote trust or rely on are all sent, far afield. Maybe that's a little bit of an illustration of how bad things are for the Empire, but surely there must be like someone close by that she
Yeah.
can, rely on to do something for her. She's just like totally isolated, it seems.
And like obviously like empires in general are and like the morality that appears to be a big theme of this book. But like if you want to maintain an empire, you like if you are overextending yourself, you like you pull back in. You stop doing that
I
and
know,
you don't
cardinal rule of
throw.
risk, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
exactly.
you
Yeah.
can't continue to expand
Yeah.
always. If yeah,
And you don't recall your army to sacrifice them. Like it just doesn't that didn't make sense. And then I think and to me, this is another way highlighting how ineffective she is as a leader. Like she doesn't really have, it doesn't seem like she has confidants. Like Tavor kind of was one, and she pushes her away and sends her on these like really risky missions and then basically betrays her. You know what I mean? Like all of her, like all of all of the assets she has that should be her most trusted and like useful assets, she misuses and misplaces and abuses
mm-hmm.
to the point where even if they were in a position to help her, they would have no motivation to do so anymore. And then it just leaves her with people like Malik Rel and Corbel Dom, who you shouldn't want close, But
Right, right.
yeah, um,
I wonder if maybe there's something going on under the,
yeah,
under the table.
um,
There were, significant looks exchanged throughout that whole conversation. And I think you summarized my understanding of the deals that were being offered to everyone pretty well. Maybe there was something else that was like,
yeah, like
go do
very
this and
well,
then run off and do, then you can circle back around and I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. Um, along these same lines, and this is more of a critique of Steven Erikson, and I don't know, like I could be wrong in this, but we get so much in the head of Cotillion in this book, and to a lesser extent Shadow Throne, but more so in Shadow Throne's head than we've ever gotten in a previous book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they seem like completely different characters with completely different motivations than what they were in book one, right? Like I just started listening to 10 Very Big Books, the like Malazan podcast. And they do like 3 or 4 chapter summaries at a time and discuss them. And like
Mm-hmm.
they possessed Absalar with the explicit purpose of messing with the Malazan Empire and foiling their plans. And like,
And now they appear to be kind of like still patrons of the
yeah,
Malazan Empire does not have a god that they worship, but this is our former emperor, and he
yeah,
seems to be kind of invested in the
yeah.
empire surviving.
There's still like animosity between Shadow Throne and Quick Ben, but other than that, like it's like they're allies, or at least seen as people like you could ally with.
Uh-huh.
And like I don't know, something, and I could maybe I missed it, but like I remember there being a part in Deadhouse Gates, or I mean, yeah, Deadhouse Gates, where one of them, Cotillion or Shadowthrone, was like, "Oh, I don't have any ill will towards Lysine." Like she thought she was like basically they had been like had abandoned their responsibility as rulers,
Right.
and then she thought she outplayed them by killing them, but actually like they just ascended, so it was like they're like no big deal. But if it was no big deal, then why were they like, what was their motivation in the first book for possessing Absolar and trying to kill Lassim with her? I don't know. I like where they're at now. I like their characters now, but I don't understand the transition. I feel like maybe it was like a pivot mid series to
Hmm.
um have them be more involved or more interesting, or I don't know, maybe the focus of the series changed. But
I don't remember back to the beginning. That would be an interesting thing to watch for on a reread for sure. But
yeah,
I'm with you. I like where they're at now. I think Cotillion has really been humanized quite a bit, and
yeah,
like his moments there at the first throne where he's like really invested and he hates to see what's going on here. Like
yeah,
that was all good stuff. And I think and one thing I've been critical of in the past in this series is I felt like the characters are, there's some that are good, but a lot of them just like aren't really developed and they're just kind of like it's more of a plot book or it's more of like a big picture book than it is about individual characters. And I think the characters were a lot stronger in this book, even like the
yeah.
more minor characters by the end. It took some time, but like by the end, I felt like I had a pretty good grasp of who everyone was. Even like most of the bridge burners slash bone
Bone
hunters,
Hunters.
right? Like I think one thing I said in our part one review was I don't know who these people are. I can't
Yeah.
separate Bob from John in the bone hunters, right? But by the end of the book, I actually feel like I could more.
I
So
think I
I
could
yeah.
for the most part. Yeah. Like Bottle and Fiddler. Apart from that, honestly though, like or Stormy. Stormy was definitely one I know who they are. I kind of struggled with that with like the general grunts. Um,
Yeah, there's still that, but
but
at least like the mid-level folks, I
yeah,
feel like they are all more than just names at this point.
I I think Solara was really well done in her characterization. Like I liked her journey with like giving birth and needing to decide what to do with the baby and like
Hmm.
reflecting on her like the environment she grew up in and like the culture there and like trying like you could tell she's trying to justify what she feels like she needs to do. And honestly, I think it was probably the best course of action that could have happened in that situation. Like she didn't really seem cut out to not be a mother in general, but to mother a child that came from rape, like that just seemed like that
Hmm.
would perpetuate a big cycle of trauma. And so I think and it was cool to see how like she's like it was still a hard decision for her. And I don't know. And her and
Right.
her scenes with Cutter, I think were a cool characterization for both of them.
And there were a few,
Yeah.
and it was done in a good way without too much of a heavy hand. Like there were a
Yeah.
few lines like, why didn't you give your baby a name? And she says, well, if I give it a name, then I would be more attached and I would end up,
Yeah, I'd have to go back.
going
Yeah.
back, right? And so
Yeah.
you can tell that it was something she thought through and is very conflicted about, but ultimately felt like she made the right decision and is trying to move on with her life.
Yeah. What we should do at the end of the series is I don't know what the difference is, but there is a difference between characterization and Malazan compared to like First Law. And it'd be an interesting discussion trying to like pinpoint what those like why are they different? Why do I feel
Mhm.
like I know the characters and their personalities better at like First Law or Wheel of Time compared to Malazan? Um, but
It could be kind of a quantity issue. There are so many
I mean, Wheel
characters
of
in Malazan,
Time,
and
there's a
yeah,
ton
true,
too.
true.
You do spend more time, probably more constant. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's an interesting discussion. Yeah.
yeah, I liked Cutter's growth. I feel like Cutter's growth has grown to the point now where I think he and Absolar both have grown to where I think they can reunite and be happy again. I'm hoping I'm hoping
Hmm.
that happens for both of them.
Yeah. I think Cutter's matured a lot. Apsalar has a firmer grasp on who she is at this
Hmm.
point and seems to be like actually thinking through things as an individual rather than just a pawn that, that
Yeah.
is doing things for others and feels like really confident in her powers. So yeah, I liked her character as well, and there was some like more human moments that she was involved in, like that conversation she had with the guy that killed Coltane. I
Yeah,
thought
Squin.
that was a good one and showed that,
Yeah,
both of them really do like have real feelings for each other.
yeah. Um, what I feel like maybe I'm being too negative. I really like this book for those that are listening. I hope you don't think I didn't. Just a few nitpicks. One of our predictions before was like the last name on her list was going to be Perrin, right? That was something we had discussed.
Yeah, I thought it might be something a little more significant than Pearl.
Pearl, I just didn't understand the point of his character in this, really. Like, um, maybe I think I'm frustrated with his plotline because he didn't seem to be that important, and yet his actions had really important effects. And like he killed Kalam all because
Well, quote unquote killed. We'll see.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, but all because of a misunderstanding where he thought Tavora had tried to get Lestara killed, right? Like that was,
Hmm. And it was this tragedy, where she was right there in Moxhold the whole time, and
but
she
I don't think it
sees him
was
at the
done
end. Yeah.
well. Like we had a similar tragic irony with like Tavora and her sister Falison, which
Mm.
involved Pearl and Lestara as well. Um, and I think that was really done well in House of Chains. But this one, I was like, how did you jump to that conclusion so fast that now you're just gonna take part in like killing Kalam? And I don't, maybe he did try to kill Tavora as well, but it seemed like really he was like more trying to kill Kalam, and I don't know. It just seemed like unnecessary for
Seemed
him. And then
like just a big rivalry with Kalam. And
yeah,
and he kills him in the most
yeah,
cowardly way, right? Just like I'm gonna
yeah,
snipe him with this poison dart.
yeah.
Yeah.
I never really liked Pearl, and I had thought he was it. This might be informing it. This is definitely informing my like view of this whole situation. I always saw him as like using Lestara, so I didn't really. It was hard for me to buy into the fact that he was really distraught over thinking she was dead, and so like I that didn't work for me. And yeah, there was the rivalry there, and like earlier in the book, I guess it like foreshadows it, not foreshadows shadows, but like there's little hints along the way where Quick Ben keeps saying like you should just kill Pearl, like you like
Hmm.
get rid of him. But I didn't really see the need to like why they would need to get rid of him. Like he didn't seem like an enemy. I didn't like him as a character, but I don't know. And then him being the big name to kill on Apsalar's list, like I don't know why she had that reaction to reading his name.
Right.
But
And he wasn't even in charge of the claw until Topper just like
yeah,
disappeared
disappeared. Yeah.
for we don't understand why.
Yeah, I was like, did I miss something? Did I like forget something that happened in a previous book?
I
But
don't think so. Even Pearl himself is like,
yeah.
Topper should be around here somewhere, right? And he's like, okay, I don't think Topper's here. I guess I'm in charge.
Yeah. And like at that point the claw wasn't really under his control anyways. Like it was they were mostly under Malik Rel's control. So
Hmm.
like at best he was a figurehead. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
I just really didn't see his importance until after. Um, but yeah, I don't did
I
like
mean, that whole
was
scene, the scene itself with Kalam just mowing through people
oh and
and yeah,
Timbre. Yeah, that was
Devora and Tim.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was amazing. That's where I'm like the book ended really well in my opinion in that aspect. Like that whole like the tension you could feel with them like going up to meet with Lacine and then how the ships were trying to be like taken over and who was the one who had the idea? Who was like, "Oh, we've got the plague. You guys
I
don't
think
want
it's
on our
Keneb.
ship." Keneb, yeah. Like I thought that was genius, and that just added more to the tension because you could tell like they're just gonna get rid of them if they are able to do that. And anyways, um, that whole scene walking up and then leaving, really well done, all of it. Just those few things I didn't really understand. Um,
I didn't understand why it was such a big deal that Fiddler was getting the upgraded crossbows at that time. It's like there's a lot going on here. Like, are we really just like buying crossbows? And I don't even remember if does he use maybe like once,
He
or
does. Yeah, he does
maybe
use
they're
it.
important to
And
them getting. They don't really show them getting back down to the
yeah,
docks, do they? I don't remember.
I don't remember. He give one to Stormy as well. Doesn't Stormy get
Yeah, he probably dishes them
one of
out. You know,
them?
they're all upgraded for next book, but it seemed a little
Oh,
strange at that moment that that was like what he was doing.
yeah. Yeah, that felt very I don't know if gamey or like movie esque where it's like all right, here's the new loadout we're gonna have. You know what I mean? Where it's like we're about to go on this heist. Let's like
Right.
I don't know, kind of like a Matrix scene where it's
I
like
did enjoy him kind of representing the emotional side of things as everything was
yeah,
happening and like playing the fiddle and Kalam thinks
that
he
was
can hear
cool.
it. And yeah,
Yeah,
it was very, cinematic.
that was cool. Yeah, and like I interpreted that as some sort of like almost like bardic magic. Like there was like more than
Mhm.
just symbolism to the to him playing the fiddle. Like there was actual I don't know, bolstering going on.
Okay.
I was he with Stormy and the Talani Mass when they went because they Stormy gives a sword back to this Talani Mass, right? And then it was like, hey, you owe us to go and like get us back to the ships, right?
Something
I don't
like
remember if
that.
Fiddler was with them at that time, but maybe that's how he got that was how they got back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all together. They join up all together again, yeah.
Um yeah, I'm excited. I mean it ends with the Bone Hunters basically being the new rogue group, like the Bridge Burners. I would be
Hmm.
disappointed if it turned out that this was like another like Lysine, like, oh, this was all part of my plan. Or it's like, I don't know. I don't see how that could really work. It would, I feel like it would have to be
It
like
would, yeah, it would
really,
seem a little forced at this point.
yeah.
Like as a reader,
Um,
you need some explanation for what's going on. At this point, it seems like we're really supposed to believe that Lysine is just in bad straits and
yeah,
has run out of options, and this is the result.
yeah. Um, see what other
Yeah, so we didn't talk about Karsa Nakarium at
yeah,
all.
Karsa. Little disappointed he didn't have a bigger role to play. A little bit.
Yeah,
It's more
it's
setup.
yeah, definitely set up. He doesn't do a ton. I find him an oddly enjoyable character where
Yeah.
he's funny. He offers some humor, but he's also, bloodthirsty brute. So there's that trade-off.
He, he's definitely some comedic relief and some like vicarious violence or whatever that is, where like you get to blow off steam by reading someone be ultra violent. Um, but at the same time, I think he's a really good example of like people's worldviews being challenged and adapting to it. I think that's kind of been his arc so far. Like he talks a lot to Samar Dev about um like the changes he wants to implement back in his society and things like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited to see his encounter with Rulad in the future. Um, one thing I'm not sure of, why are they trying to find people like Ikariam and Karsa to fight Rulad? Does he gain
Yeah,
power every
I
time
don't
he's
know.
resurrected? I don't remember if that's a thing or not. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't
And if not,
remember that happening in Midnight Tides. I just remember him coming back. Like Midnight Tides ended with him coming back over and over again, right? But then one of his brothers, was it Fear, basically declined to kill him and instead cut his knees out or something like that. And like,
well, the was it Bryce? Whatever the swordsman at the end of Midnight
yeah,
Tides like filleted him, so he was like he wasn't dead, but he was just immobile. And then the I think the errant like caused some like magic shenanigans to have Bryce drink a poisoned cup, so then he died, and then I think they just killed him, killed Rulad after that, and he came back. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's what happened. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
like he outplayed it, but then got
And it
outplayed.
seems like some time has passed from what we saw, the ending of Midnight Tides to where we're at now.
I thought
Because
it was
the Eater are out like on their campaigns,
conquering.
right?
Yeah.
And they look back through, I don't remember whose eyes we were looking back through, but one of the Eater was thinking about how basically summarizing some of the end of Midnight Tides and then saying, okay, now all the Letheri, maybe it was a Letheri person where,
Hmm.
we're all now one thing and we're going out on these missions to basically like ethnic cleanse anyone who is similar
Yeah.
to Eeyore.
I
Like they've
assumed it
gone
was
really
like
dark.
I thought it was like at least a generation had passed. Because Troll gets exiled at some point after Midnight Tides,
Hmm.
or at the end of Midnight Tides. And it seemed like was that Dead House Gates or House of Chains where we first meet him?
I think it's House of Chains where they go and they like find this random dude and we were like, who in the world is this?
Yeah. I feel like he had been, in my mind, he had been exiled for like a long time at that point. So that's
Mm,
my interpretation. I know I've heard people say the timelines in Malazan do not line up. Like if you look at like the years on everything and the years people say have passed versus like, but that was my sense for it. And I think that like makes sense for like you're saying they have a unified empire now and um uh, um
So yeah, we can
yeah.
assume that whatever's going on with Rulad, I don't think we can really. I don't think we're supposed to understand it quite yet. I mean, the only thing I can think of is their Rulad is bored and crazy, and they're just bringing in people for him to fight because I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like it's either serving Rulad to make him more powerful, or the pain it causes is making the crippled god more powerful. I don't know why that'd be more significant than other people getting
Mm,
slaughtered. Or maybe there is like a secret contingency of the Eater who are we like we need to find someone who can actually annihilate him. But I don't know how Karsa or Ikariam, even as powerful as they are, I don't know how they could like kill him any harder than he's been killed.
right, right,
Um, I loved the moment. We didn't see Karsa and Ikariam interact together, but I love the moment where Karsa was like, "I want to fight Ikariam again, like this time on even ground." And
right.
I think Summer Dev was like, "No, you don't want to fight him. Like you want to stay away from him." He's like, "Oh no, I need a rematch." She's like, "A rematch? What the heck?"
Yeah, stuff like that with Karsa is gold.
Yeah. Ikariam had some really cool moments in this half of the book
Ikariam
too.
definitely like I feel like we've been waiting to see what Ikariam is all about for since the
Yeah.
beginning of the series.
We got more of an explanation of why he's so dangerous.
Hmm.
Like he can potentially destroy Warrens, it sounds like, which I
Well,
don't
he
know.
like did once. The explanation
Right.
was he tried to free his father out of the
An
dead
Azath
house.
house. Or
I
yeah,
don't
right.
know which Warren he destroyed. I maybe that was explained. Maybe I just don't
Was it
remember.
Shadow? His Shadow's fragmented, but I
Shadow's
don't
all
know.
fragmented up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Or yeah, I don't know if he destroyed one or just damaged one really severely.
But
But
basically, yeah.
yeah, the repercussions of that have messed with his memory and
And we don't know other than and I guess the nameless ones, like they worship the Azath houses or something like that. I think
it,
we learned that in Midnight Tides.
that sounds right.
Um, and so I understand why they want to control them because they don't want more Azath houses being invaded. Um, no idea how he has the power to destroy Warrens. Like, what about him makes him that strong? Like, he's a Jag, but other than that, like,
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, we saw the Jagged Tyrant back in Gardens of the
Yeah,
Moon, which was super powerful, but
but he
Ikarium
was
seems to be
trapped
like,
within an Azath house at the end of that. So,
yeah,
like,
Ikarium seems to be like unmatched by anyone other than Timbre, the aerosol at the end that just like comes up and touches him.
yeah, and that's not even, yeah, that's not raw power. Like, that's just some magical shenanigans. I love the Aerosol. The Aerosol is such a cool character, cool idea
I
of
felt
a
like I
character.
had no idea what was going on with that until pretty late in the book where I was like, okay, I just need to. And the good thing about Malazan on the internet is if you look up a name, it like doesn't do spoilers and does a really good job
Yeah,
like on the wiki.
it
So
does a
I
really
I
good
had
job.
to
Yeah.
I just had to look her up and get a little bit of an understanding. So I get it now, but I was really lost. And I know there were hints like when she was controlling Quick Ben's sorcery bottle
Yeah.
had this like animal musk scent and
Yeah, like the Savannah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean
Um,
my understanding is she's like a primordial spirit and has attached herself to Tabori for some reason.
yeah, I don't know. I'm lost as to whether Timbre was ever actually a human or if it's always been
Yeah.
a figment of the aerosol or not. But yeah, I just love the idea of this like ancient, like ape-like human ancestor god that is like traveling through time. I think they mention in Midnight Tides that she is potentially Kettle's mom, and she was like, "Oh, who's the father?" And who was it trapped in the Azoth? Was it Scabandari Bloodeye who was trapped in who
I don't remember.
who was Scavendari Bloodeye the Tistiandi who was betrayed by the Edor god, or was
Yes.
he the Edor god himself?
Oh wait. Blood Eye. No, Blood Eye
Silchest
was the
Ruin.
Edor.
Silchest Ruin was the other one, I think.
Right.
Was the Andy who was betrayed.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think it was Silchest Ruin who was like, she travels through time like your father could potentially not even be born yet, or um could have been born like millennia ago. So that idea is just cool. It kind of reminds me of the Shrike from Hyperion, which gotta get people to read that series. It's so good.
After our
I
most
think
recent
Ryan has
episode
read it.
about bad recommendations, there was some Hyperion chatter on the YouTube video. Some
It's
comments.
so good. It's like literally, I think it's the best sci-fi series I've read. Three Body Problems up there. They're very different, but anyways, oh, also I think we got a almost confirmation that Troll Singar is Kettle's father in this, because Bottle recognizes the aerosol as pregnant, who I assume would be Kettle based off Midnight Tides. And he says the father is Tist Edor. And we know that the aerosol, like, I don't know if she like got rapey with Trill Singar because he had cuts on him as well. So I didn't know if that meant she like just took some of his like blood to use as like DNA. I don't know. But anyways, that's my prediction there. I don't know if that's gonna play like
Okay.
be
Totally missed that
important.
thing. Yeah.
Um,
We didn't
anyways,
mention there's a
back
couple of quick hitters because we're running low on
yeah,
time, but we didn't
yeah,
mention Perrin's whole attack on Poliel in the
that was
temple. Like
amazing.
that part was awesome. Actually, maybe should we pause here? Do you have a we haven't done the worst of the best segment for a while. Do you have anything? I have one
Um,
that's kind of related to this. So
I could have one related to this, or I had one in mind. Trying to think.
we did already cover some good things
Yeah,
with some
it would
criticism.
probably be the Lacine part, just like feeling like she's a very inept ruler after thinking she was so cool. And like worst of the best night, the best part was like the conflict that caused, but the worst part being like uh that or Pearl's whole plot line. Are you gonna say Whiskey Jack? I feel like, or Do Jack?
Yeah, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
worst of the best. That whole scene was so awesome where Perrin comes like
Yeah.
first of all, Perrin, now an awesome character. He comes in, kicks butt at the Temple of Poliel. His whole plan with
So cool.
releasing the what are the not the
There's the Hounds
hounds,
of
but like
Shadow and then the Daregoth.
yeah, the Daregoth, right?
Yeah,
That
the
seemed to
Hounds of
work
Darkness,
out,
I think. Yeah.
risky for sure, but seems to have worked out so far.
And
Took
the
out Dejan
Odoterral
Nembel.
Shard. That was so cool. Like she thought he was what did
Oh,
she
right.
what did Polio originally she thought he was soul taken or something, and he was like, nope, it's a slink. Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, that I mean that worked out. Um, I thought the Dejim Nebrall, now that I'm thinking about it, the Dejim Nebrall, that whole thing, that was a little weak for me. Like it's the book started with that. He seemed like he was really going to be an issue. Doesn't really do anything too problematic. And, the first time they try to get rid of him, they do. So
I feel
interesting there. I'm
like
not, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that he's just going to be used later in the series. I feel like that's all that this
I thought he
was.
was killed. Like, didn't the Daragoth kill him?
I thought he was like maimed and captured.
He was. The
Maybe he was
Daragoth,
killed
the Garrett, no, the hounds captured him,
and
took
left him
him,
for the
dropped him
Daragoth.
off with Soliel or Poliel, not
Well,
Soliel,
yeah, and
with
they all
Poliel.
got
Yeah, and
ripped
they all got
apart.
killed by the Daragoth.
I don't know. Then
And
yeah,
that is
yeah,
the end of
that's
Dejim Nemral.
disappointing.
Anyway, so maybe there's two parts to my worst of the best. Like that whole scene, I think I'll say that was my favorite part of the second half. I do still
Yeah,
think the Yucatan stuff in the first half was the best part of the book. But yeah, the end of Dejim Nemral and the end of Dujek coming back and he's just like dead from the
dead.
plague.
Yeah,
That was so disappointing. And it
yeah,
wasn't like a complete, failure. I understand what Steven Erikson is trying to do with that and
hmm
saying, like it didn't all work out for Perrin and now he's got to
yeah,
take this responsibility that he didn't really want and it's good for his character. But Dujek just seems like such a cool character that we never really got to spend a ton of time with and seems
yeah,
like so important in everyone else's mind. But as the reader, you never really like get too much of a glimpse of that from what I can remember. Maybe there's something cool that he does earlier on, but I don't remember too much. And then he's just kind of dead, and that is sad.
yeah. I agree. My only like silver lining to that is like, hey, we saw some burners come back in this book as undead. So maybe we'll see Dujek in that same capacity somehow in future
I
books. But
mean,
yeah,
we better see Whiskey Jack again in some way.
yeah. I agree though, like he's like a legendary figure at this point, but we haven't really seen him do anything, unfortunately. But yeah. Um
I
yeah, what do you think
think
you
that
would rate it?
covers most. Yeah. What
Yeah.
would I rate it? Overall, I'm gonna say it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite solid. I do enjoy Malazan is like an experience, honestly, unlike any other fantasy that I've read. Like by the time
hmm
they're finished and I'm looking back on them, I'm like, these are really good books. I really enjoyed reading them.
Yeah.
It is difficult to read them as you're going through, even though it's usually if I'm
Yeah.
enjoying something, no matter how long it is or whatever, I'm just like, whatever, it's awesome. I love it. But there's a lot of work here and it's not always super conducive to reading through. But looking
Yeah.
back, they're good books.
Yeah, I agree. I would give this one an 8 out of 10. I think it had some amazing highs. That whole Poliel sequence, chapter 7, um, even the meteorites that I was confused by that ended too early, and then the climax itself, like all of those are just like top tier moments of fantasy. I did think it was kind of disjointed at times, but it wasn't, I don't think that brought it down too much. But yeah, I think Malazan is kind of like the Dark Souls of the fantasy world, where like
Hmm.
even like the world, I don't think you've played much of those types of games, but like to know the storyline in that game, you have to just read the description of
I
all the
started Elden Ring.
items
I played a bit of Elden Ring. I plan on getting back into it at some point. But yeah, I
before
from the
Shadow of
amount I played, I
Erdtree.
got the vibe. The for sure is the
Yeah, so
same
it's
vibe.
like you're just thrown in order to know things, you have to like search to find the story. And then also the fact that it's just like so hard that you have to just like grind to like really dig in. I will
Well,
say
and
I
just
want
the
to,
general vibe and the grimdark and the really like
yeah,
bizarro twist to how everything looks and whatever, there's these giant gods that are just crazy, right? Which it's a
Yeah.
very similar vibe.
Yeah. I just want to plug 10 Very Big Books again. That's been great. Like re-listening. I'm listening to their podcast going from Gardens of the Moon, trying to get caught back up to this point. And I've already
Nice.
noticed some things that I've missed. And I was like, oh man, did I actually read that? Because like that seems so obvious, some connections. But
So since it's been too long, loyal listeners will notice that Ryan has kind of dropped off of the Malazan episodes because he feels it's been too long for him and he doesn't really remember much of going on, which is fair. It's
yeah,
probably more on us for not reading them sooner.
yeah.
But I guess you're trying to fill his shoes and become our Malazan expert.
I would love to be a Malazan expert someday. I don't know if there's that much space in my brain, even to begin with, but
Mhm.
I'll try. Yeah.
All right, well, if you want to check out more from Pentology, links to our Discord and everything else is in the episode description. Let us know, I don't know, your thoughts on Malazan. We don't have a ton of really devoted Malazan fans on the Discord server, so if you want to hop in, and let us know some things, please do. It'd be fun to get more discussion because there's a lot to talk about with these books.
Yeah, I would really love more people to like bounce theories and ideas off of while we're reading this. Um, yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. See everyone later.
See you.